this process today. In this lesson I'm going to show you how to do a process called depletion gilding. Depletion gilding is a process where you heat and pickle a sterling silver sheet or a sterling silver piece of jewellery to raise the fine silver to the surface of the sterling silver. Pickling when the piece is still warm actually removes the copper, the acid removes the copper out of the surface, and it acts to put a fine layer of fine silver across the top surface. You might do this in preparation for other processes, one of them being Kombu, another being reticulation, or enamelling. So any of those processes where you want to have fine silver on the surface, it stops any oxidization. Can also be used to cover up fire scale, which is the discoloration of the copper in the sterling silver, and that's at a deeper level, and so you can actually depletion gild the finished piece of jewellery. It's never brought to a temperature high enough to melt solder, it's just warmly heated and then pickled in order to bring that fine white frosty surface to the top. So I'm going to show you how to do that today. So I've got a piece of sterling silver sheet here on my charcoal block, and I am going to heat it up gently for the first time. I've got a really soft flame and I'm not heating the material to a annealing temperature or even anywhere close. What I'm trying to do is just get a gentle heat to the surface so that when I quench it into my warm pickle, it makes a soft hissing sound. So I want to just kind of see a little bit of tarnish rise to the silver, and I can just see that now. It started to yellow a little bit, and then I'm going to quench it and it makes that hissing noise. So then I'm going to take it out of the pickle after a minute and I'll show you what the surface looks like. So this is after the first time, and it doesn't really look any different. It's still got its regular surface on it, and so this process needs to be done about 6 or 7 times to get the silver to look really nice and frosty white. One thing you can do is heat it gently, pickle it for a couple of minutes, and then take it out and use a brass brush. So a soft brass brush that looks like this. I like to use it wet so that the brass doesn't transfer to the surface, and with a little bit of detergent. So I get the brush wet and I can just brush the silver lightly, and that also aids to take the copper off the surface. So I'll give it a rinse and a dry and then heat it again. If you don't dry it between flaming, you will get really distinct watermarks on the metal, which we don't really want. So I like to keep it nice and dry. It's a good idea to do this process while you're doing something else at your bench. Often I'll do it while I'm making something else, which helps me not get too bored with the process, because even though it's not difficult, it is a little bit tedious. So I'm heating it up again. And again, I'm looking for a little tiny colour change in the surface. I'm just running the flame over and I can see that it's started to change now, which is enough, and I'll quench it again. So I've done that flaming and pickling now 4 times, and I'm pretty sure you can see in the surface that the shiny glossy silver has come away, and it's now looking a lot sort of whiter and cleaner. So I'm going to do it another couple of times and I'll show you the difference at the end. So while my other piece of silver is in the pickle, I've just got a couple of other pieces here that I've fabricated or done things to, and I want to show you that sometimes when you heat it initially, the silver does tarnish quite a lot, and that's good. That's a good sign. And what we're looking for is that colour to come out and through the silver. So you can just see straight away that that's gone a little bit murky in its colour, and that's actually it doing its job. So because this is so fine, that's plenty. It's going to make a noise when I hit the pickle, and that's the perfect sound. Here's another ring here with surface on it, and I've soldered this. And so you'll probably notice when I heat it that a fair bit of copper and sort of scrot comes to the surface when I first heat it. You can see a light colour change. Underneath it's a bit dirty, so I'm just heating it all over so that we can get some of that copper and fire scale and oxide out of the surface. And here's one more piece that's a cast piece, so it's going to have loads of oxide come to the surface and it's going to tarnish quite a lot. As you can see, all that colour. And I'll pop it in the pickle now. And then I'll show you what they look like. So now you can see this piece that I had earlier. I've just done this one time, and as I turn it around you might be able to see this here is really grubby and looks really kind of brown and dull, a little bit like fire scale looks, whereas this bit's starting to look white. So this is what normally happens. We're raising that copper out of the surface, so it might look worse before it looks better. So we are going to continue with this to get it really nice and frosty white, so I can show you the final outcome. This time you can already see that my little gum leaf pattern has already gone quite a lovely frosted white. So I can brass brush that if I'd like to get it back to shiny, and it'll just have less fire scale and any other marks. It'll look really lovely and white silver. So I've got this little hollow form type piece here again, and I'm just going to heat it another couple of times and show you, as sometimes you'll see the tarnish raise to the surface a little bit as you're heating it. So this is quite thick. I'm not even heating up this little thin bit up the top. That will be definitely hot enough. Just see a few little marks of tarnish in the surface, so I'll pickle that. So I've got my sheet of silver that I started with, and I have flame and pickled that about 7 times now, and I'm hoping you can see on the surface this side's got a few little spot marks, but it's really white and frosty, and the sheen of the silver's come out of it a bit, but it's really white, which means there's a lovely layer of fine silver across the top. So this is now ready for us to apply Kombu to it. If we give it a clean, we can enamel straight on it without the enamels discolouring from the oxide in the copper. We could reticulate this surface now, so it's ready to do things too. I've also got this little pod piece, and this is probably the most dramatic difference. You can see how much cleaner it is, and it's got a lovely white hue to it, and it's particularly nice for the internal shape in there. It's a really lovely white colour, so I could polish up the outside of this and keep the really lovely white colour inside, and just stops it from tarnishing and looks really nice. Today I'm going to show you how to make Kombu, which is a Korean technique of fusing 24 karat gold foil to silver to create a really great highlight technique on your material. These are some samples of different things that I've done, and today I'm going to show you how to make the gold foil and then how to apply it to silver. You're going to need some gold, 24 karat gold granules. In this little bag here at the top there is 1 gram of gold. There's some scraps from prior usage in rolling out, so I'm actually going to melt that down at some point too and reuse it. Make sure you keep all of your scrap because gold costs a fortune. I need a couple of strips of copper. I've got 1mm copper sheet that I have cut ready to roll. I've also got some silver sheet to apply the gold to. I've got a piece of sterling silver, which is fine to use, and I've got fine silver, so I'll run you through how and why we might use one or the other. You need to use a rolling mill for all your rolling, and then all the other tools that I've got, cleaning agents, tweezers, a burnisher. A hot plate is ideal. I've got a piece of steel on top, and then I'm going to melt and anneal the material here at my bench.